This is episode 282 of the Gold Squadron podcast. I'm your host, Dion Morales, and today I'm joined by Marcel, Drive Like Happy, Putt Like Happy, Manzano. I'm not sitting by my chair right now, so I didn't know that I got called, so I'm not going to respond. Will, the Hawk 290, has 6 egg slots. Hagewood.
Oh yeah, it's definitely played in the forest too.
Ryan, too many cider mill donuts. Staniszewski.
Yeah, multiple trips to the cider mill the past couple weekends, and no one else is eating the donuts, and I don't want them to go bad, so too many.
And James, Latless Ritter.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a Republic list that does not have a lat, that doesn't get melted by everything, so I'm a little luck.
Did you introduce my chair?
I did.
Okay.
All right, everybody. We're back. We're back. A week off due to me. It was my fault. So, but we are back. We're up and running. It is good to be here. And this episode is brought to you by our amazing patrons. If you want to be a part of our biggest group of supporters, you can get ahead to patreon.com/Gold Squadron. Now, as for announcements and news, this upcoming weekend is Exegol, the Galaxy's finale. The Galactic champion will be crowned this weekend. Now, if you're still missing your email for your invite, please make sure you send me a direct message on Discord, and I will be taking care of those tonight and or tomorrow night. I did take care of a bunch, and it was for various reasons. People not putting their GSID anywhere on TTT, like we had asked them very nicely to, or putting their incorrect GSID. That was fun to figure out for some people. But, yeah, we'll get you, of course, if you earn that invite, you're guaranteed a spot. And tonight, the last thing I'm doing before I go to bed tonight is I'm sending an email to everybody who participated in the Galactic Championships. We're going to have 35 spots open. All right, 35 extra seats available. You have to have participated in Galaxies. You'll get a special link in order to get your ticket and all of that, and we'll be able to get those seats out. So if you're interested and you played in the Galactic Championship, go ahead, go to that email, buy the ticket, and get it done. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. We got quite a few things that we want to talk about today, and we are going to, here's our topics for today. We're going to talk about the St. Lawrence Open. That was a Canadian World Qualifier that happened. We're going to talk about some tournament software updates that I have for you. We're also going to be talking about a game that we've talked about a little bit. Aerodome is going to be coming live to Kickstarter here in October, and I've been doing some work with the creator of it, and I want to talk about it a little bit. Also, we're going to preview Exegol. Let's talk about it. Will new points matter for this? What about new pilots? All that? Don't worry. We'll answer all your questions. Of course, we're also going to make some bold predictions. And Ryan Staniszewski's got some just insights, some thoughts about things. And I mean, I like being inside Ryan's brain. You should too. So we're gonna get to do that. All right, we'll dabble in there for a little bit. But first, let's head over to Canada. We'll head over to the northern border, crossover, and let's talk about the St. Lawrence Open. There were 40. How many players were there, guys? 40 odd, almost 50.
40 to 50. There may be some not in here, maybe because of drops or whatever. I'd heard 50-ish, and then there were drops, but it seems like the final count is somewhere around the low 40s.
Cool. So our champion ends up being a name that we have uttered quite a bit here on this show. It's always in the mix from the Canadian players. Brendan Osman Damon with a resistance list. Hit us with it, Ryan.
So this one, if I recall correctly, should be very familiar to a list brought by Andrew Oler that won or got close to winning. I think it was either a Galaxies event or another in-person event a couple weeks to a month back. But it is a 6-ship resistance list featuring Commander Poe with Crackshot Heroic R4 Proton Torpedoes, Wilsa with Ion Cannon, L4E R5, Bomblet Generator Targeting Computer Engine Upgrade, Shaza, Belly Run, Ion Cannon Turret, Proton Bombs, Target Computer Engine Upgrade, Kai Threnali, Tearfund Belly Run, Dorsal, R5X3, Proton Bomb, Targeting Pure Engine Upgrade, Finn in the pod with Predator Heroic Percent of Co-Pilot, and BB-8 with Chewie. So again, featuring the 6 ship resistance with the Commander Poe and all fixins of 3-point ships plus the 2-point BB-8.
Awesome. Let's keep it going here. Our other finalist was Cam Murray. Take it, James.
Cam Murray with a scum list, a 3-ship list. I think we might have actually seen this one at one of our galaxies pretty recently. Boba Fett, Kanan Jarrus, and Rook Cast in the Gauntlet. That Gauntlet has Notorious Mandalorian Child, Veteran Telegunner, Dropseat Bay, Contraband Cybernetics, and Swivel Wing. Kanan and the Hawk just has Maul on board for the extra force and force regeneration. And Boba Fett in the Fire Spray and the Marauder has Fearless, Electrochaff Missiles, Contraband Cybernetics, Ahsoka Tano, and Veteran Tail Gunner. So 3-ship list, but has the ability to do some extra attacks with those Veteran Tail Gunners, reduce some damage coming in with Kanan, and a Mandalorian Child combo with that white reinforce, and then a pseudo infinite force if it plays out just the right way. So and it has chaff missile in there, so you get some extra.
Of course it would.
Yeah, because if you can bring a chaff, you do bring a chaff, right?
It's true.
So some pretty interesting tech there, and brings a 5 force. Is that right? Yeah, 5 force.
Yep.
So nasty. And 3 ships. So that sounds like a Jedi list.
All right, we'll keep it going here. Sebastian Demers, one of our top 4 competitors. Take it, Marcel.
He flew Separatist list with Django and the Fire Spray with Ed Notorious, Jamming Beam, Count Dooku, Proximity Mines, False Transponder Codes, the Slave 1 title, and Boba Fett. Grievous, the standard loadout on Grievous with outmaneuver, plating, and Soulless 1. Cad Bane with in the Rogue class Starfighter with Crack Shot, Heavy Laser Cannon, Ion Cannon, the title, and Ion Bombs, and then the FS-081 with Discord Missiles, Independent Calculations, Grappling Struts. All of these lists we've seen, and just real quick, the top list, the one, this one is the one that Andrew won the last Galaxies with. He beat me in the final with that list. I think it's almost exactly the same, if not maybe one card difference. And then Cam Murray also flew the exact same list, made the cut, played him, and it was the exact same list. So we're seeing a lot of repetition between Galaxies and in-person tournaments. Very similar. Very similar.
And then last but not least, Jean-Francois Gaudreau. Take it, Will.
Better than I could do with it.
Jean-Francois might have been what that actually is supposed to be.
That sounds about right.
I just struggle bus there for a minute.
No worries. This is another list you should be familiar with. The Galactic Republic list here has Hound Anakin in the 7B, Obi-Wan in the Delta 7, and Contrail in the V-Wing. This is utilizing Hound, getting double calculates with C-3PO, and then using Corky Kryze to throw them, those calculates, to defending ships. Probably Contrail because doesn't have any force. But of course it could be Anakin out there as well. Plus, Hound is using 7th Fleet Gunner and the Fire Control. It's Fire Convergence to support these Jedi. Anakin's got the Crack Shot. So this one does not have the Chopper. This one has R4P17 and a shield upgrade. So that's the pattern analyzer droid, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that a player who's not confident in their Anakining, or are they just looking for more? I'm not. By the way, I'm not trying to call you out, Jean Francois. Okay, I'm not trying to call you out. I'm just saying, or is that a player just looking for like, hey, I would love to use Anakin's ability here if I could, but instead I got this kind of like get out of jail free card for a turn.
Right. The difference of like Chopper is like getting you free evades. It's really where Anakin shines when he's got that evade token plus calculates in his force being thrown at him. This Anakin though with our 4P17 can do like a pseudo proud pattern where you're moving, you get your R4P17 action. Okay. And then you can clear your stuff with Anakin and take a separate action as well. Which is going to probably be target lock and focus every round them. That between that kind of action economy plus Obi-Wan basically getting unlimited focus, because that's his ability. It's a hard nut to crack. And if you can, there really comes down to Hound. Can you take Hound down, or essentially can the Galactic Republic keep its Hound safe long enough to really utilize that 7th Fleet Gunner and all of its support abilities?
Good stuff. So this event had a little bit of a different format than what we've been seeing at most of the World Qualifiers, and I think it may have been limited to the fact that it was only able to be a one-day event. So it was a top 4. We haven't done events. We haven't seen a lot of events that was just a top number cut, but this one was a top 4, so it followed that kind of standard where the event points followed by strength of schedule and going down that list of tiebreakers to figure out who was in that top 4, and they went from there. I know I did talk to a couple of the players, and if you actually go to the TTT entry on this, it looks really strange. I'm not sure what happened, but at least the top 4 was very clear on there. But if you look at the rest of the data, it looks very strange as to what happened. Who knows? But we know who the champion was, which is what we needed to talk about, that top cut. Now, when it comes to lists, Marcel, you had mentioned it. We're seeing a lot of repetition, or maybe mirroring is the word I was looking for. A lot of mirroring between the Galactic Championships and what we're seeing in person, and a lot of the same lists popping up. I know we've had the same points for a while now. People are really looking forward up to a shakeup. What are maybe I should say that for the Exegol section, but I guess here I'll give you a volleyball, very easy one to hit. Was there anything here looking at that top 4 that surprised you?
No, because everything was already proven to be good before, and I don't necessarily. I think it's a combination of the people that are playing online and people playing Galaxies are the same people that are going to the tournaments. But I think the other part is that at this point in the evolution of this round of point adjustments, I think we're at tail end. You might find 1 or 2 outliers, but Farmer had something on his on the Fly Better page, I think a week or 2 ago, asking has the meta already been solved? I don't think it's ever solved, but it's pretty mature. Like, people know.
We found a lot of good things. We found a lot of good things.
If anything, the only thing that's surprising is that you don't see any of the double bomber FO lists.
I was just looking at that.
That might just be people are just getting bored of it, and also the Y-Wings. The Y-Wings tend to not care as much for that, if you fly them correctly.
That's true. I mean, they have the health. They don't need health and arcs. You don't need as much action.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. Was Remy was the highest placing Kylo out of, and I think Grudge out of all of these players, and he went 2-2. So yeah, that was the only thing that surprises me. Where's the first order? They were supposed to be good, unbeatable.
They took a break. They just took a little break. That's all.
Well,
They went out, they're hyperspace tracking somebody. I'm certain they'll be back at
they're-
Exegol. They have to be.
Sorry, I'm
thematic.
mistaken. There was another grudge, but still, no, not as many as I would assume.
Yeah, and I know
Are they going out of favor?
They might. It might be. It might be that. It might be that. But so here's a question, right? Oh man, see, all this ties together to Exegol, and I think some of the things that Ryan's going to bring up. But how about I'll leave this as a little tangent, and we'll come back to it to kind of hit with what you said, Will. Maybe people are getting tired of it. Is it one of those things where like because the FO bombers have that, for a lot of people that feels bad, there's sometimes this aspect of people being like, I don't want to fly it because either I don't want to be that person, right? Like they'll have, not that it's bad, by the way. Like,
sure.
Please, I am that person. I'll do it. I'll drop those bombs on your face all day. I'll do it. But it might be that. It might be obviously access. Maybe somebody hasn't bought the FO pack in person. Sometimes that happens.
I mean, there's normally a list where like used to be triple jumps or not
Right.
triple jumps, but it used to be triple upsilons as well, where like the ability that you don't know what it's about to do, and it can do it so quickly that you can prey on people. But now we all understand it, or hope you should understand it at least. Like,
it's like when you come across somebody who doesn't, you're like, oh, you're going to learn today.
Yeah, it was like, I've heard of those chaps. I was like, you're going to learn today. So yeah, awesome. I mean, maybe we'll see. We'll talk more. See if they're still worth taking.
Awesome. Well, as we continue here, the next section I want to talk about is tournament software updates. As I did mention last week, while the Save TTT initiative unfortunately was not able to get off the ground because the owner of TTT did not want to part with the software and was deciding to let it sunset. With that, we knew that there will be others to rise to the occasion, to rise and say, hey, listen, I'm going to try to take their place. And I've had several reach out to me to be an alpha tester for them. And I'm not going to drop names or anything like that. But the one that is, as far as I know, the closest to usability for X-Wing is the one that's being created by Brian Gamble, who is the person who used to run Kuwait Print Yards. All right. He's coming up with one. I've been very impressed with the things I'm seeing, and he has asked me to run basically a alpha test tournament. We're almost at that point. We're going to do it after Exegol. I don't have a date quite yet. Not comfortable doing that. But when I have that call for that alpha test, really what I'm looking for is this first. Of course, it's going to be 100% free because we're just trying to test it. And we want to do a 3-round event, and we want like 50, 60 people to answer the call and help us really stress test this thing, because the goal is that this piece of software may end up being the backbone of X-Wing tournaments going forward. So the idea with this test is to really put it under load, have 50, 60 players pinging it, putting in lists, going through the procedure, and then giving the feedback and helping us find the points of failure for the software. So looking forward to that. I don't want to give you guys the name of it yet either, because that is not public yet, though. The date of the event, we will be letting you all know when we're ready to give that to you. But I want to kind of get it in your ear, and especially if you are a TO, participate in that, okay? And honestly, for the event, you could probably just be like, you don't even necessarily have to play the games. We're going to go through the motions. We're going to play the games. But if you just want to practice clicking around things, you can feel free to forfeit your games, I guess, if you want to. But it's always more fun to play, right? Always more fun to play. All right, but wanted to talk about that. Now, before we jump into Exegol, I wanted to take a second and talk about this game we've been pumping up called Aerodome. Aerodome. If you haven't heard about it, it's a game made by a friend of the show named Wade Pichet. And it's coming live to Kickstarter in 7 days, 15 hours, and 52 seconds. Actually, if you just drag that down, you can see the timer right there. And the reason why I wasn't available for the podcast is I was in Minnesota doing a video shoot and helping test some parts of this game, putting some final touches on it. And I'll tell you, I had a great time. It plays really fast. There were 2 players there who were playing it in about 60 minutes. They played through 3 games of Aerodome. Mind you, they know the game well. They were able to play fast. But if you like spatial reasoning and decision making, but you want a fast-paced game, this is it. I had a great time, and it goes live in 7 days. The official how to play and all those videos I helped them out with. So at least go watch the videos and give me some feedback on when they come out. But super excited about that, and just a shout out to our friend Wade, because he used to work for FFG, and he's like, hey, I want to make games. So he's doing it. So that's awesome for him. All right, Exegol. The Battle of Exegol, the Galactic Championship, friends. The question that I've seen pop up in chat a bunch in Discord is, Dion, if we get new points, what's going to be legal, what's not going to be legal? Let me be very clear right now. If we get new points by this Friday, those points for the currently released products will be legal. But the Battle of Yavin cards, none of those will be legal because that product is not released yet. All right? I think that's that balance of giving a curveball. This is a championship. It's time to say, listen, we're putting that curveball in there. Find that thing and play your best to claim that championship, because I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's really great. But we're not going to go ahead and let those new pilots in, because there are things we haven't seen yet, and I think that's just one step too far, in my opinion. Does that sound fair and balanced, friends?
Yes, Dion, you probably would want to just 100% clarify for everyone who may have a question related to this. Mm-hmm. When you say release of points, you also include things that are in the ban list, the maybe future restricted list, any rules reference updates, anything that comes along with this apparent points update would be in part of your allowing it to be an Exegol.
Correct. Everything is legal except those pilots that are coming in the Battle of Yavin pack. And I have full confidence that our man Stephen Kim will have Yasby up and ready to go. And if people need to double check and reset things on the day of the tournament, we'll let you guys do that. We'll make sure everybody does that. And we'll get everything up to date and make sure that all those restrictions are good to go. And we'll be double checking with each other if it happens. Now, we have no idea if it's going to happen, but we have to inevitably prep for the release of those points, because it could happen.
I think we find out this week if AMG loves chaos or not.
AMG, let's go! Come on, I know at least one of you guys are watching. Come on, just drop it. It's perfectly safe. Just do it. All right. So that is the plan for those. Now, let's talk a little bit now. We've talked a lot about lists over the last few months as we've watched the Galactic Championship develop. We had the release of the Clone Z95. We have the release of the Rogue class fighter as well. Let's talk about those 2 new releases. James, from those 2, which one has been more impactful in your opinion? The Clone Z95 pack or the Rogue class fighter pack?
For me personally, the Z. But I think
For the meta at large.
For the meta at large, still for me personally, it's still.
I asked the Republic guy, and of course it's going to be biased.
You made the wrong choice. But I think for sure the Rogue class, just based on like how much we've seen it and how much of an impact it's made. Like I think it's given both the Separatist and the Scum a great 5-point a 5-point option in CAD, and that's it. It's just CAD. All the other ones, maybe Nom Lum in the occasional list, but it's mostly, I think, from what we see in CAD. And it's that crew that he gets, and also the bomb slot that can really crack open some lists to give some like nasty combos with throwing tokens with the Scum version, and the Separatist able to get some extra actions, like in the combat phase.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, the other thing I like to talk about is with the rise of online play and the access to this data, one of the things that we're able to do is not just look at lists, we're also able to have conversations about players and how players perform in different events as things continue to progress. Now, we have had is it 5? We've had 5 qualifiers. We've had 5 qualifiers and 4 champions across those qualifiers. I realized that for some reason the Mustafar qualifier isn't up on the website, even though I made the graphics. We'll figure that out. So, so those people are, if we go from the beginning in order, we had Christopher Patrick, right, aka Crispy, who won with First Order. We had Andrew Bolduc, who won with Separatists. Then we have Christopher Patrick again with Scum, Andrew Cox with FO, and Andrew Oler with Resistance at Mustafar. So we had a double in there. We know there's been a lot of great XTC players have been playing in Galaxies. If you can't pick yourself, Marcel, who's your favorite horse in the race and a dark horse? Give me 2. I want to talk to everybody. I want everybody your opinion. Give me a player.
Is there a player named either Andrew Christopher or Christopher Andrew?
I mean, there's a pretty good chance if you have either one of those names, you have a good chance to win, for sure. All right.
But, okay,
side note, tangent.
So,
tangent. Andrew is the most common name in X-Wing, by the way, at least via my data. Yes, it's kind of dumb. How crazy. How many Andrews there are. Not that anybody named Andrew is dumb, but it's ridiculous. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So I think you have to think Christopher probably has to be the favorite, just if you're doing like tennis style seeding or golf style seeding, like the number 1 seed, just because he's won 2 of them and he's also won a world qualifier. So he's got to be the favorite. This is an interesting one. So I would probably put Cam as my dark horse. Cam Murray.
Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Will. Who you got?
Pick to win it.
Pick to win it. Who's your favorite, and then a dark horse?
Wait. Is it who? Are we picking who the favorite is, or who we pick to win it?
Well, you can't pick yourself, Marcel.
No, that's not. I know.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the favorite. If the favorite is who you think is going to win.
Favorite, but I'm going to go a different route then. I think that the winner will be. I'm going to go Cam Murray, the winner. And the dark horse, then in that case, Christopher Patrick is the favorite. I think that's not a question.
Okay.
But the dark horse will be. I'm gonna go Nicholas Scott.
Ooh, okay. All right. He is always creeping out there, in the best of ways. By the way, Nicholas. He's always around that top cut for sure. What about you, James?
Yeah, I think I have to go with Andrew Oler. Just because, like, or maybe Crispy being some crazy list that just work for some reason. Why do they work? I have no idea. But he brings some very innovative lists that seem to work. So I think I'm gonna go with Crispy.
All right. And you got a dark horse for me?
What do you mean by that?
So somebody who, they haven't won, maybe they're creeping around the cut, a name that we haven't been able to say as often. Oh, okay. that counts. Yeah, Octacon.
You're slipping. I need to see some I need to see some numbers.
I think Octacon is the favorite for running second place, right?
That's true.
Oh,
that's true.
Are you insulting the man?
No, I mean, I've only done Bridesmaid this year, so I'm not insulting him without insulting myself.
No, Octa's a great player, but I think we just haven't seen that great performances that we're used to seeing from him that made him X-Wing famous. So I'd like to see him back on top.
All right, Ryan.
I sure would like to know if Mr. Paul Heaver is going to actually play in.
He is.
He
is.
I saw Will go. He already said it. I don't know whether to consider. Can you consider a 3-time world champion dark horse?
I was gonna put him in dark horse territory though.
I have a separate dark horse, but I was just curious if he's in there, so I'll let Will have that one.
Okay.
And it's definitely. Crispy, you got a lot of pressure, sir. Especially when you put it on yourself to say, "Hey, what about me for XTC representing America?"
There you go.
So I'm not going to say you, but prove it. But I think at the right time, Andrew Oler is peaking with his resistance list, and other people are performing with it as well. Mm-hmm. I think picking an Andrew is definitely on my high point, because Andrew Cox also showing a powerful new variation of the first order list as well. Whether or not is he making it too or no?
That I don't know off the top of my head. I only know that Paul is doing it because I got the notification today. There's like, Paul Heaver has bought his ticket. Like, it popped up on my phone.
Did he say he might not make it to Exegol though? I remember him saying that.
Andrew Cox said he wasn't sure if he was making it. Paul's there though. Paul's just having
Crispy.
Oh, Crispy. He also said he wasn't sure because he's also disc golf.
He said, frisbee golf, right?
Frisbee golfing.
Right,
Their game time decisions. If it's a rain out wherever they're at, then
I'm sticking
they'll
with
play.
Andrew Oler for my main pick. I'll say dark horse Charles Holcomb.
Ooh, that was mine. All right. Yeah. All right. So
this is what you get for going last, Dion.
I know. I was trying to be a gentleman. Okay. So I
haven't said mine though.
Oh yes. Will. It's like but first. Before you go.
No, mine are easy. Dark horse Paul Heaver, right? He did come in and do well in Mustafar. I believe he made cut, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So
he was in the top 4.
Yeah, top 16, I think. Was he top 4?
He was top 4.
He won his top 8 game, according to this information. The man knows X-Wing. Is he tournament ready though? We'll see. Wait, what were you calling the other one?
So that's your favorite?
Your favorite.
Favorite, thank you.
Your champion.
I'm actually going with someone I see out there practicing almost every day, getting reps in. That's Daniel Leon. Epionic has been putting the reps in. He was flying Ghost for a while. Now he's been toying with the Imperial swarms with TIE fighters, something he is accustomed to. Last year in the XTC, flew a lot of, I think it was ZAM as his fire spray and a bunch of vultures. So like a decimator and a bunch of TIEs, or a ghost and a bunch of small base ships. It seems right in his wheelhouse. Can he pull off some wins with it? We'll see. But like I said, I see him out there putting the reps in. I think he could go all the way.
All right. So for me, you guys said a lot of the favorites. I'm gonna go with a couple of dark horses. So a performance that I think is underrated, and it's mostly because we didn't get to talk about him in the cut. If you remember, back at Oricon in August, one Alan Clark went 5-0 and said, I can't make it tomorrow, but I'll see you at the Galactic Championship. That man, cold-blooded. He's coming for you. Watch out. All right? So that's my first dark horse. Second dark horse is Attila, a.k.a. Totem. He's been a very consistent player out of Europe, and if he's having a good day, he could take you. Like, I would be worried. I was going to say also Paul Heaver, but fair to take that one. And one of the other players I wanted to go ahead and give a shout out to is Jason Chong out of California. Another very good player who's very consistent and is always kind of floating around. But there have been, if you just look at those top cuts, you see a lot of the names repeating. You have some players kind of spiking here and there. But I am excited to see what ends up, how it ends up settling. And lastly, my final dark horse is Alex Mogensen, our 2021 Galactic champion. All right. He was experimenting with the list last qualifier during Mustafar, made it far enough to qualify, but was in a similar boat last championship, turned it on, and won the whole thing. So watch out, because he's going to be at Exegol as well. He should be absolutely awesome. All righty. Now, Ryan, you got another dark horse?
I mean, I can't believe I scrolled through some of the names. I'm like, wait a minute, I forgot he played in an event and like made cut and stuff. How can we forget one of the most, like, Doug Howe, Mr. Doug Howe himself from XTC?
Yep, another great player.
I didn't even think of looking at the ladder is closed.
They are not.
We got a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I got a spreadsheet.
By the way,
spreadsheet.
as they are looking at that, if you are watching at home right now on Twitch, who do you got? Who do you think will end up taking it all? Who are your dark horses? Because I think at this point, X-Wing we have these names that repeat and do well. Maybe you've heard them. Who's your favorite? You've seen these people play on Hexiled Gaming. You see them play here on Gold Squadron. Who do you got? Who do you got? Cell Brute? I mean, absolutely. Brendan, Osmond, Damon, absolutely running in the race, especially coming off of already winning a championship. Or did he spend all that mental fortitude? Death Seeker saying Marcel for number one. I don't think Marcel's allowed to win it. That's GSP rigged, right? That's how that works.
Well, I was going to say that none of us are going to win our predictions because
you're going to take it.
No one
trying to lose.
Okay.
Fair. Absolutely fair.
I mean,
Now,
you
James,
you can't say GSP can't win a GSP event. That's clearly been proven otherwise back in the very beginning of the existence of online play.
This is true. Space Jab.
Yeah.
All right, let's start here.
Yeah. I think looking through, so James has compiled a bunch of information about the galaxies, as we should. There are our events. We have all the information available. But I did notice a name a couple times up here. Kevin O'Connell did get first in Swiss in Oricon. I think made cut in a separate event as well. I think Corbin. Anyways, but yeah, has been putting in the work with Darth Vader Defender and TIE Fighters, which we did not see in the faction we didn't see in the top cut of St. Lawrence, by the way, is the Imperials.
It might just be because their not their MOV, their event points might be trash.
Well,
I mean, you're just going for a dub.
you know what? It's tough to kill all those TIE fighters, all right? And sometimes those TIE fighters can't get the kills.
Sometimes they go BX. That's right. They go pop pop. All right. Well, now shifting over to lists. By the way, if you guys want to bring in players, feel free to shout them out as we're going. But let's shift over here to lists. We've talked about. Let's go through each faction. Republic. We'll start there. We've been seeing that James. We'll let you lead this part. For Republic, what have been some of the common archetypes that we've been seeing out there?
Lat. Lots of lats, lots of hounds and hawks and Jedi. But if you want to take that a little bit further, we've seen a lot of Anakin in the 7B, and Anakin the 7B, Obi-Wan, a lat, and Contrail has been a really strong archetype for quite a while. I can't remember when we started to see it. Was it? I think it might have been...
they were testing it before Gen Con, but I think Gen Con's the first time it got really publicized, because Duncan had won with it, so pretty noticeable.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. So yeah, I think that one's a very strong archetype for Republic, and kind of any variation of that. We've also seen the lat with Z, like a Z swarm, do okay. I think it's very matchup dependent, and also if you practice it enough, you need to practice that one a lot to get your spacing right, and to make sure that you engage all on one target. But beyond that, I don't think they have a lot of other great archetypes that are currently floating out there.
So are you telling me that the top 8 Republic lists will all have lats? How strong is that in your soul?
In Exegol, that's what you're asking me.
In Exegol,
I would say 7 of 8.
7 out of 8. Strong.
You don't think so? You don't.
All the way, 100% approval. 8 of 8.
Yeah, probably 100%.
I don't know. I think there's still something to find. There's still something to find in there. We'll see.
There's some wiggle room in there. James is hedging. He's like, I want to be right. I want to be right next week.
Yeah, we'll see. I think there's some secret sauce in there. Like, I think Naboo's are underlooked. I know. Will's a big fan of Naboo's, in a very bad way, but I think there's still a lot of pieces in there. Arcs have been.
There were 3 points. They were pretty exciting.
Yeah, I would be too. But I think there's still a lot of stuff in there that people can use if they're willing to test and practice.
All right. Marcel, I'll yeet it over to you. Pick a faction.
Okay, pick a faction to do what?
All right, I'm going to move on. Will, pick a faction.
All right. I'm going to take an easy one. Let's go with First Order. So what we're expecting to see in the faction?
Yep.
That's, the Whisper and the Bomber. You guys have been talking about like new splashes for new releases. I think that box has just taken over First Order between Nightfall, the 709th, Kylo, flying in the Whisper, Grudge, and now almost exclusively Grudge. People have been dropping Dread or potential second Chaff launcher to just take Grudge. With the Proxy Mines, his reroll, like the Proxy Mines should hit, Ryan, 2.5 damage every Proxy Mine with Grudge's ability online?
Yeah, it's like because of the math on the roll into 2 dice, and you're guaranteeing 1. You re-roll on the worst one, you're likely to get 1 out of the 50-50 between the 2 dice. So yeah, it's like it's a 50% chance you're doing 3 damage.
I like the way you put that.
That's why we
that's the number we're looking
list,
for.
Like, I don't want to play OB8 anymore. 50% chance this Proximine just kills him. Nope. I'm out.
I could understand. But yeah, so the Grudge still going to be trying to squeeze it in every list. If you get 4 points to do so, pretty good. Though they are staples, the Scorch and Malorus, I think people have been, unless you're a 5-ship list, it's hard to get value out of them. They're normally your objective getters. They're not actually out there to do damage. They just happen to throw 3-dice guns, which is nice, but really there's out there being 3 agility, more defensive ships, right? Mm-hmm. But the ship that I'm going to say hollow, but don't listen to me. But the Z shuttle actually between Malorus or Gideon, I think is the support piece, if not the only support piece for First Order right now. That between like whether it's trying to hux or trying to do some feedback pings or something. I guess those are untraditional. Terex is normally enough to get you by for support. The addition of those is very popular. I'm trying to think of what, in Lawrence, someone was actually running a St. Lawrence. I'm sorry, he got sainted or whatever. Let me see if Andrew Durham was flying Hollow, Malorus, Quick Draw, and Kylo, which is I think a sleeper actually is Quick Draw. That would be that's my dark horse for First Order, but for 6 points, he actually I think does as without jamming. He does as much as Kylo, in my opinion. And people just don't want to shoot him. People want to shoot at Kylo, but they were like, literally anybody but Quick Draw shooting me range 1. So that's a real secret threat out there as well. Plus, you get I6. Very high initiative.
I don't think it's much of a secret anymore. I mean,
Quickshot's good.
I'm saying after this last event, I've seen a lot of in a lot of my practice games this last couple of weeks. I've seen them.
Quick Draw's popping up a lot.
Yeah. It's because it's for the same 6 points. It's actually hard to fly Kylo. Like unless you're out there just instinctive aiming concussion missiles every round, it's hard to get value out of Kylo. Whereas Quick Draw. So just go in there and start brawling.
Here's a question. So, and this question could come off as I don't know, disrespectful for some people. But is Quick Draw easier to fly than Kylo?
Oh yeah.
I would say no. I would actually think the opposite because Kylo has a lot of with 3 agility and not necessarily wanting to, what makes Kylo easier to fly, in my opinion, as well.
Let me. The Whisper Kylo. That's the one I was.
I understand what you're saying.
All right,
what makes Whisper Kylo easier to fly? You're talking because of the same point value. Yeah. What makes Whisper Kylo easier to fly is that he doesn't need to lock that instinctive aim concussion missile, and then the shatter shot just gives him makes it real easy to make him hit hard. Then his 3 agility or potential for 3 agility plus jamming, so he can jam, action, and then have force to back it up. And if he's not jamming anyone, jam himself and still have 3 agility with force. It makes it a lot easier for him to survive. And then finally, the fact that he can shoot 3 dice concussion missiles out of the back also makes his gun stay active a lot longer. Quick draw is 2 points. It's always going to be 2 points. Has a worse style, and basically he always has to. He's kind of like Manaru or any jump master with punishing one or Dengar, where he has to have his gun in the front. Once his gun goes to the back, he's kind of neutering his own shot a little bit, because then he's rolling 2 dice, and also he has to get off his action. So the first time that he comes in, he's typically not flown with a coordinator. So the first time that he comes into combat, he's going to come into combat taking a target lock.
Let me introduce you to
focus to back him up.
I want to let Will talk about.
Let me introduce you to Pattern Analyzer Proud Electronic Baffle Quick Draw. So you come into combat with a hard 1, and you can get focus lock, and you can right away baffle off the stress and take 2 shots round 1.
Yes, but in order to do that hard 1, you have to position it. You have to fly. You have to be very careful with the way you fly it in order to get him into a position where where your hard 1 is already set up to get target locks, focus, double shots, and not at range 3. I
want to stir the pot a little bit, though. I want to stir the pot. I got a question for you, Marcel. But are you arguing which one is easier to fly, or are you? Because it sounds like you're arguing to me which one is better. I
think he's convinced me that Kylo is probably easier. Quick draw does have like very specific things you have to do.
Okay.
Kylo can just hit the instinctive aim button.
In my opinion, Quick Draw has a better potential. If you're putting the reps in and you're practicing, I think you get more out of Quick Draw. If you're just picking up the list and saying, or you're picking up a list and saying like, hey, I only get limited reps in this and I don't have that much time to practice, you'll get more value out of Kylo. So Kylo, easier to fly, easier to get value from. Quick Draw, more difficult to fly, but you can potentially do more damage and get more value if you put in the reps to practice your setups and when to stress yourself, etc.
Very cool. Very cool. Love it. Love it. All right, Marcel. So, getting back to you, pick a faction.
I'll do Scum because I think that's kind of the more wild cardish. So I didn't say Cam Murray. So Cam Murray obviously is flying Boba, Kanan, and
something else.
Rook. No, it's the Rook. The Rooks.
There's just Rook. No, there's no Rook? No S. No S. It's not Bosk. It's not Kashka.
Okay, it's Rook. So I think that is there. So is you get kind of like what Crispy was flying. I think that same tournament, right? Or the tournament that he won something with. That he won it with. Which is with, you get either the Q9 or the other, or the Mandalorian doing those, you're never going to damage me. Reinforce plus force plus those type of lists. But you also get, in my opinion, I think the Scum has the biggest potential for untapped talent or mixture of already known talent built in a unique way that kind of plays well together. I'll send you a list on our Discord so you can pop it up.
Okay.
This has been my go-to outside of the Imperial one that I've been flying. The one that I just shared on our Discord has been my go-to for like the last month or so, just for when I want to have fun, but have fun in a competitive way. Which is 5 Initiative 3 lists. I mean, 5 Initiative 3 ships. Manaru, the same way Crispy had it loaded out. It's good. Lats with Trickshot, Lando, Perceptive Copilot. Gamut with Protector of Pleb, which basically makes him a double coordinator. Ahav, which with so many medium and large base ships flying around, he can be a very nasty 3-pointer. And then Leighton, because I need another 3-pointer to fill in the list, and the potential to have a 4-die gun in play is always good. But again, I've been flying this a lot and doing really well with it. I don't think it's as good as the Imperial list or some of the other resistance spam or 5-ship or 6-ship resistance lists. But the point that I'm trying to make is that there are so many good options in Scum, and there's a lot of Lego block type of opportunities with Scum and Resistance. But I'm pretty sure Ryan will speak on the Resistance in a minute. There's so many different plug and play type of ships that are just really great value for their points. Gamut Key, amazing value. Kanan, amazing value. The Mandalorian or Q9, pretty good value. Manaru is probably the best 5-pointer out there, in my opinion. I don't know many other 5-pointers that are running around with 2 agility, 9 hull, and just the potential of rolling 4 or 5 dice on every attack, double modded, and it's just a lot of value pieces to. You can do some really nasty stuff, and I'm pretty sure there's not a lot. I'm pretty sure there's a few things out there that we have yet to see, and we're not even talking Bosk yet. Or Moralo. Moralo in objective play is surprisingly very good. He is very good at objective play.
But we haven't seen much performance on that outside of one Marcel Manzano.
It's not that there's not. It's just that there's so many different choices and so many different options. And when somebody puts the time in and actually practices and tries, with different ships from the faction, they've done well. Again, looking at Crispy winning, looking at Cam Murray, looking at there was a couple other ones that did pretty well, and Boba Fett. Boba Fett's always there. Eamon, there's always that was it? Oh, Eamon, Manaru, Kanan, and something else or something like that. Mm-hmm. Those are still out there. There's just a lot of plug and play that have the potential to win the entire tournament. So it's a fun faction, but it's a fun faction. I don't know if somebody wants to go into Exegol, be in the final in a testing something out to see if it does well. We're probably going to see a lot more of the things that have already performed.
The tried and true.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. All right, let's keep it rolling. Ryan?
Yeah, as Marcel alluded to, I may as well hit one of the other high-performing factions right now, Resistance. This one's got a lot of layers to it, but I think it boils down to you need to start with identifying, are you going to have one or multiple centerpieces, a.k.a. are you picking Rey, Poe, either version of Poe, or Chewie, like one of those 6 to 8 ship lists? Are you trying to put any of them together, as we saw Duncan at Nova? And maybe other people have taken just the Rey, Poe, and then Thing, right? The Kova, the whatever other last 5-point thing. Or, as Paul took in Mustafar, Paul Heaver chose to take Rey, Commander Poe, Kaz, and BB-8. So, we still had multiple stacks of your centerpiece ships showing up in multitudes before getting to what I think is the most common thing, and that is pick one centerpiece. Is it Rey? Is it Trigger Poe? Is it Commander Poe? Or Chewie, right? Those are your 4 options. And then fill out the rest of your list with the plethora of 2 to 4 point options. Realistically, honestly, we'll boil it down to the 2 point is only BB-8. We know that. The 4 point in most of these conversations is Kaz. All the other 4 pointers, just it's a massive drop off in terms of what people consider to be viable in that regard. After that, it's fill out your 3 points. You have all the 3 point Y wings. You got Wilsa, you got Shaza, you got Kai. Wilsa's number 1, in my opinion. I4, good. You already have the boost link into calculate, which is good for at a higher initiative. But also L4ER5, passing that calculate to a friendly ship at the start of engagement in your arc is extremely valuable. That is very akin to the Hound Corky Kree C3PO throw and calculate to friend as well. That has a little more information because you choose on defense when that comes up versus this one, which is start of engagement. Still both great information. After that, people can discern if they want Kai for the loadout amount or if they want Shaza for the I3, one more initiative, and an ability that might actually trigger. I think Shaza's the one Y-Wing that might actually have an ability that will trigger more than the other 2 Y-Wings. I don't think anyone's digging for Kai to hop over and do some leapfrogging stuff. And then you have the other 3-pointers that can show up. You have FinPod. In my opinion, is more valuable than any of the Y-Wings besides Wilsa. FinPod can tank so much damage if you want him to, but he can also dish out some ridiculous damage being for only 3 points. And he doesn't need to do anything fancy. You can either put him on a board edge and you can dare your opponent to just commit way too many resources to him and while you go do everything else with the rest of your list, or they leave him alone and he's free to use all of his mods on offense, which is always dangerous at the low initiative 2 that shoots later. It's a very dangerous shot, likely after you've maybe used your mods for other shots on defense. But there's also the other end of the spectrum. For your higher initiative 3-point ship, your Jarek Eager. A lot of people have been featuring him with taking a missile, very likely concussion missile, taking false transponder codes. That I5 high initiative lock jam can get past that calculate from Wilsa, so you have a little better modded concussion missile shot. Plus, it's I5 with slam, which can be very valuable in certain objectives. You can decide later if you need to slam out of something, if you need to slam into a zone like assault, or get back into a chance engagement zone.
Can I get your opinion on something real quick here, Ryan?
Sure.
Jarek Yeager. I've seen probably the most common illicit on him that I have seen is overtune modulators. Is that the right choice?
I think overtune modulators is the right choice if you're taking cluster missiles, which is a dark horse option that you can use if your other pieces in your list you don't feel comfortable in your swarm matchups. If you want something to cover what kind of Commander Malrus does in First Order, providing that initial burst of damage. Now, not Commander Malrus in full where you get it twice a game, but only once, where overtune modulators can be there to help with the multiple shots and maybe some return fire. I think if you have Wilsa around, which you should, if you have a list that is a 5-ship or 6-ship resistance, your passing calculates. Take false transponder codes, let the calculate get passed, lock, calc. You might need both. You might only need one to modify the offense. You might need some to help you modify the defense. So I think false transponder codes is still very valuable at I5. Overtune modulators to me is depending on if you're taking a different missile that I don't know, maybe someone might really like the idea of overtune modulators and mag pulse. Something to neuter them further, but you're getting your mod built in yourself to go do it at I5 versus locking with a concussion missile and jamming them, getting a lesser mag pulse, but getting more damage. Not saying there's some secret tech in there, but someone might try it. Who knows? But I think it is FTC is the better one, in my opinion.
False transponder codes. Okay. Very cool.
And we've seen a higher emergence of this new 6 ship. This Commander Poe is being your sort of I more equate him to a wedge in this list. He doesn't have the wedge's ability, but he does have the I'm self-contained double modded every other turn. I'm throwing a proton torpedo. I'm 6 points. As long as I trade up, I have 5 more ships in my list that can take care of objectives. We know how good the Y-Wings are. We know how good Finn is. And we're seeing an emergence of BB-8 because of things like this 6 ship, because of things like Paul Heaver using Commander Poe, Ray, Kaz, and he had 2 points left for BB-8. It's an annoyance ship. It can just take care of objectives. If you put too much emphasis on trying to kill BB-8, other things are going to be doing a lot more to hurt you. You can never discount Ray. Ray hits so ridiculously hard.
And I guess here's my question on the Poe. Like, I've been going back and forth between Trigger Happy and the Heralds of Hope Poe. And I guess the question is the double action every other turn good enough? Because one of the things I feel like we've seen in stream matches for some players when they have that Trigger Happy Poe is they become a little bit predictable at times. Or if they have the overdrive thrusters, they spend so many turns out of play. And this is aside from assault at the satellite array, but so many turns not being productive that double action Poe sometimes has too many actions. it's kind of strange. What I've seen out there.
You're in a situation where you have so many options to get out of situations, you do it, but at the same time, you're getting so far out of situations, you're not contributing enough. Mm-hmm. I think that's definitely a game state situation where people got to decide. So I've put a lot of time into Trigger Happy Poe before Gen Con, and I think you never want to play a complete game unless your opponent drastically messes up. There should never be a game where Poe never gets shot, right? Every game that I had won using that Poe, even lost sometimes. Poe lived, but like on 1 or 2 health. But that's because I engineered engagements to where I'm not getting shot by 3 ships. I'm getting shot and trading with one of them. Mm-hmm. Or I'm taking this shot. I'm staying here and taking this double modded shot, but I'm trying to only use my target lock on this shot, or preparing to seeing what the results are. Like, I'm very conscious of what I'm trading when a Poe is trading shots with someone. Obviously, when you have Commander Poe, you're more maybe not committed. You're maybe more okay with maybe even trading all of Poe to trade up to something, right? Because it's 1 point less here at 6 versus the 7, and there's less of a whole ace investment to it. Now, we've seen some Poes go torp Poe. We've seen some Poes go outmaneuver Poe. We saw Duncan do outmaneuver. We saw Paul do outmaneuver, but we're seeing like Brendan and Andrew do proton torpedo. And I think there's a very distinct difference as to why that's constructed that way in their list. The Poes that are in Andrew's list and Brendan's list, those Poes don't have any other target more valuable than him, right?
Right.
So if you play the outmaneuver game, you're already telling your opponent you should look at him anyway, and they already want to look at you because you're the highest cost ship in your list.
Look at me.
So, like, you may as well bring the proton torpedoes and say, if you look at me, I'm gonna make it hurt, like straight up. Versus me trying to get around you so you don't look at me. But if you're a Poe in a list with a Ray or a Chewie, something equal value or higher value, then you're telling your opponent, well, if you don't look at my highest value thing, I have this outmaneuver Poe, whether it's Commander or Trigger Happy. But if you do look at this Poe, especially if it's Trigger Happy, that Poe can very easily leave very well. Even the outmaneuver Poe I think Paul had overdrive thrusters. That can still leave every other turn very well and just deke you out. And Ray or Chewie are just hammering you because you aren't doing enough to them to get them off the board before they put enough damage in you for your game to not make a comeback.
Very cool. James, you wanted to make a point?
I just wanted to say that that's part of like trading ships out is what Ryan was mentioning was I just wanted to also touch on the fact that like you can throw your Poe in there to take one or two big shots and he will live. Like it's very unlikely for Poe to go down in one round unless you just put him in a bad spot. But it's okay for you to let him take one or two big shots. But if you get, you know, like let's say Darth Vader, you put him in front of Darth Vader at range 1 and he's double modded and all the things, he's gonna shoot at him. You know, he's not gonna shoot at maybe your Kaz or maybe your Rey that's also in a tough spot. But if you put, you know, the Poe right in front of him and give him something juicy to shoot, maybe maybe your opponent will thinks that they could take him down, and then you just get him out.
That's very true. It's very true. It's baiting people definitely makes them sad. All right, well let's keep it rolling here. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about Empire. Empire is the faction that starts with 3 famous words, friends. You know what they are. It's Jingo Jingo Wampa. You can't go without it. Okay.
Nah, you definitely can't. Wampa's overrated.
Listen.
You can definitely do just Jingo Wampa. You don't need double Jingo sometimes.
You don't have to, but it sounds better. So I'm going to go for Jingo Jingo Wampa, okay? By the way, our patrons are going to be getting our Jingo Jingo Wampa Christmas holiday end-of-year card, all right? So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, so we've seen a lot of TIE Fighter swarm is what we've seen. We've seen different variations. We've seen the newer evolutions that start putting TIE fighters plus other things and getting more ships. So, for instance, Marcel had brought was it a 7-ship list? 7 ships, 6 of them TIE fighters plus another, had Countdown in there for a little bit of spice. We've seen some different variations there. If you're going big ace, of course, you can't go Empire without talking about Darth Vader in that Defender. Extremely consistent, heavy hitting. A lot of the times we've been seeing lately is the heavy laser cannon variant. You're going to see Malice out there, probably Juke as well. Very, very consistent. And Malice being able to bring those critical damage in and triggering those pilot crits to get that force back up makes it a Darth Vader that's hitting 3-4 hits almost every time. We have seen Vader whiff on a shot. It has happened. It is possible, but it is very rare. Another variation that we've seen in the Empire has been Decimators. We've seen especially Morna Key. Morna Key is the latest hotness, I think, in that in the Empire, being able to manipulate that reinforce. Where we've seen people get in trouble is that mismanagement of either the engagement with Morna Key or the management of where that reinforce ends up being. Players who are getting taking advantage of Morna Key are flanking and not having to worry about the reinforce, and that can be a very powerful tool. And we've also seen a couple of people flying TIE Fighter swarms with a Reaper in there carrying Palpatine. They're all 4 or 5 points, so most of the time what you're seeing is the defensive one, Captain Farroff. But once in a while, if somebody has an extra point and they want to get offensive, you may see Vermeil, but that's kind of rare. Most of the time we're seeing Captain Farroff. But as for other legal ships, we are almost never seeing TIE heavies. A TIE interceptor is a word that we have not spoken in a very, very long time. A little bit, I'm not sure if it's so much a dark horse, but a ship we see pop up once in a while is Darth Vader in the TIE X1. If you're going for a quote-unquote budget Vader. And as for V1s and gauntlets, I don't think we've seen them. Wait, somebody recently did something with an Imperial gauntlet. Am I remembering that correctly?
I think it was with Hark, I believe.
Okay, so not common, but who knows if we end up seeing it at Exegol.
It was one of the European qualifiers that it was either first or second place.
Mm-hmm. So, hey, man, there might be some secret sauce there. We don't know. But the ones I've mentioned previously, though, that Jingo Jingo Wampa, some type of combination of TIE fighters plus another smaller piece like Countdown, like we saw Marcel do, either single or double decimator, sometimes Vader with a decimator and a little bit more on there. And once in a while, you might get a little Reaper as well, most of the time carrying Palpatine. Did I miss anything there for the Empire?
Defender +5. I mean, that's kind of probably like the most common list.
Yeah, I mean, that's yes, absolutely. Thank you for clarifying. All right, so with that, the two factions we haven't talked about are Rebels and Separatists. We can kind of pick at those together. Will, you want to talk a little bit about the Rebels and what we kind of have been? I mean, we haven't really seen much Rebels lately.
No, not particularly. They are. Hold on. They were traditionally Luke Wedge plus 2 other ships.
Right.
But I think we've seen the rise of VCX use instead of Wedge or instead of Luke, taking out one of your heavy hitters and replacing it with Callus, Chopper sometimes. I mean, 4-dice gun, the dorsal veteran turret combinations are getting 2 shots out of this thing. Plus Saw, just an easy focus mod you can carry around when people aren't shooting you if you're not the priority target. The notables, though, have been, I think, U-Wings, a staple since objective play between their stopping. Most of them have some sort of support mechanic, whether you're throwing focus tokens with Benthic or you're stopping rerolls with Magvayaro, or even Saw Gerrera, who's got the biggest loadout and the highest initiative for the U-Wings. He could even provide offensive rerolls in addition to perhaps Leia or other things you might be trying to bring with him. But I feel like the U-Wings should be looked at for 5 points, 8 health on 2 agility, and like I said, I think Saw, Magva, and Benthic all are boasting like 15-point loadout, 15+ loadout on them too. Let me look here. Unfortunately, B-Wings, A-Wings, not expecting much. There is a style of swarm, if you will, that we've seen creeping around in a couple of ways where you're combining up like all the budget buys. You got like Aaron Kraken, Arvel, Hobby, right? Those are the popular 3-pointers. Then you're trying to mix in some Y-Wings as well. The 4-point Y-Wings, specifically Dutch and Evan, because they have good abilities and a lot of loadout, but they can bring chaff missiles as well. It could be a pseudo replacement for like a bomber type of line troop out there just trying to eat shots and disrupt the enemy as much as possible, allowing your multiple other ships to get objectives. I'm going to bounce this one over to you guys. I mean, is the Wedge, Luke, normally Fenn Rau, and I've actually seen Dutch be more popular than Colby in this kind of archetype because you can coordinate Dutch then, and Dutch coordinates Wedge most likely. So you get a little bit more flexibility in that. Plus you can swarm them up and all these other things. That archetype essentially has died off as we've moved from the initial P versus P style of lists back all the way in the points drop in like Richmond was the first event that we covered to where now I feel like we've hit a almost leaning back towards objectives, where you got to bring 5 ships, or you need to be able to bring like large bases for assault. That kind of style of play.
I think it's 3 cards that killed that archetype, and I do think it's not valid for tournament play anymore. Like I don't think anybody, if you're thinking of taking like Luke Wedge plus something, don't do it. But I think it's 3
But why,
cards
Marcel?
specifically.
Why?
The first one is the Chaff Clouds. I mean, they're prevalent. The second one is also the prevalence of false transponder codes. How many ships are taking them? And then the third one is Iden. Between Iden, false transponder codes, and Chaff Clouds, you're going to find yourself in a very, very steep uphill climb in a lot of those matchups. And you're not doing objectives very well either. So, I mean, there might be other little things that might be helping. The double reinforced. There's a couple different lists. Double reinforced, Kanan, kind of making your shots a little bit less.
That makes a lot of sense.
But yeah, it's just not.
Because even like the Han variants, trying to get 4 quality shots, still are doing well, but then they come across one of those archetypes, though.
Well, yeah, the Rebels are definitely in a weird place. Like you said, Will, we've been seeing those VCX, but man, those things are ticking time bombs. That's my issue is like, go ahead.
I just put this up if you don't mind. I put something in our Discord chat.
Okay, I'll grab it now.
I didn't even know you could fit this, but I put it together like a week or 2 ago. I think it was a week ago. But it's basically,
One second.
Did I put the wrong?
No. I just didn't.
Oh.
I didn't get all the text. Go for it. Oh, we lost you, Marcel.
Sorry, I'm muted. You can fit 2 ECX plus Jan Ors, and basically all 3 ships have the potential to double mod their shots. And when you have the combination of Swarm Tactics plus Fen Rao on the list, it allows you to double boost both VCX, because you can boost one of the VCX to initiative 5, shoot. Then it's based on how you set yourself up. But with Fen Rao, get rid of the stress because you engage with the VCX first at initiative 5, pull your stress, get the other VCX to shoot again with boosted dice. You can really double mod both of those. You can double mod your Janor shots because you're probably walking in with double focus. He doesn't coordinate, so he's using all his actions for himself. So again, this is something that I would not fly, but this is something that I would definitely test if I had enough time to play around with it, because you're talking about the ability to reinforce plus still mod your offensive shots, boosted either 5 or 6 die shots, and
this reminds me, James, maybe you probably have a better knowledge of it. Who was running that Yeet cannon in Mustafar?
I have it up, I think.
I think he lost on stream. Is it, or did he win on stream? Was it Sam Durbin?
Yeah, Sam Durbin.
I just remember he had Janoris and Callus, and I think he had Kraken and Colby, which is some value pieces.
Yeah, I think we saw Colby just get
Colby got blasted.
Delete.
Sometimes the Notorious doesn't release you from the aggro as much as you would hope.
Yeah, it was Callus with Saul Leia, Kraken with Elusive Plasma, Jan with Elusive Perceptive Moldy Crow, and Colby with Notorious R4 and Cloaking Device. That's right. He put the cloaking. He cloaked Colby and threw it at him and was like, "Yeah, shoot my 4 agility X-Men," and they did. So
Yeah, but I think that's what reminded me, Marcel. Is like, man, that yeet cannon, like. I don't think you need two, but like, man, just one of them. If you're just out there threatening a 5 dice gun was enough.
Yeah, the
to
reason
give
I
people
like
speed.
2 is because it changes the target priority a little bit. Because
sure.
Usually when you have one out there, to Dion's point, it's like, okay, we can kill it.
That's
and if
the
you point
target,
guns at
right?
it,
you either
I
break
ran
it
that
or you ignore it.
yeah, so you go in there and you kill it. But when there's 2 of them around, same thing when you're playing with like double decimators. When you're playing with double decimators, it becomes more of a target of priority. I mean, a target of opportunity versus a priority target, where okay, I'm gonna kill, this decimator first, but okay, now I'm on the other side of this decimator, and I got this other decimator in front of me, so I'm gonna start working on that one. So
And they have two. They have 2 half-pointed that don't matter for most scenarios. Like two VCXs on 4 or 5 health.
Yeah,
Nasty.
All right. Well, and our last faction to cover, of course, are the Separatists. And I just went ahead. This is the list of the most common offenders. Ryan, you want to talk about these a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure this is sort of similar to Resistance, but you have less options that are viable. You pick how many centerpieces you want, but generally, I think the most successful ones we've seen are at least have General Grievous in it, right?
Yep, that's why I put him at the top.
Yes, and Grievous is pretty much a standard loadout card because it's just outmaneuver, impervium plating, soulless one. Done.
Bye.
5 points, extremely valuable 5 points. Probably one of the best 5 points in the game. Now, we've seen people like Octocon and others go into the swarmier side of things, providing Grievous a bunch of bombardments or X amount of bombardment drones and X amount of vultures. We've also seen Grievous and CAD plus X amount of bombardment drones, X amount of vultures. I've rarely seen any hyena besides a bombardment drone. That's why I'm just mentioning bombardment drones. I think the only time we've seen anything other than that, it's been a separatist drone carrying chaff missiles with
I was about to mention, just
dual
the
fire
chaff.
spray of Django Zam.
Just the chaff
Such
versions.
a low amount of popularity. It's not something you should plan on seeing. You could have a plan for it, but don't. It's such a low percentage. Don't worry. And then you have. Then when you start mixing in Django, that's where things start to, I think, really flesh out why Grievous can be such a menace, is because when it's similar to the Poe-Ray dynamic, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Django, you're not looking at Grievous, and that is scary. But if you're looking at Django, if you're looking at Grievous, then you're not looking at Django. And you only have so many turns that you can kill a Django with the resources you have available in your list. So I think personally the better separatist lists right now include Django and Grievous. After that, you make the decision. Is it going to be Django, Grievous, plus a bombardment drone and 2 vultures? Or is it going to be Django, Grievous, CAD, Vulture? I'm personally on the side of Django, Grievous, Hyena, 2 vultures. CAD has some ridiculous stuff he can do. However you want to load him out, however you want to utilize his ability, it's powerful. But he is as durable as an average T-70. And there are enough high-powered things in other factions to say, I can commit these things to kill Cad Bane, and Cad Bane is still worth 5 points, and that is still a viable amount of points for me to care about killing and not feel like I've wasted resources doing so. Not saying that you should commit an entire list onto Cad Bane and let the rest of the entire list just flank you and destroy you positionally. but it's not a lot of resources necessary to kill Cad Bane. I think he's the easy target first when he's on the board with Django, Grievous, and a Vulture. You can make it difficult for them to try and kill Cad Bane, no doubt about it. And it is a list that has proven to do well. Not saying it can't. I think the best loadout that I've seen I've seen plenty of variations of it, but I think it's ion cannon, heavy laser cannon. You take the dual cannon threat. You take your Xanadu baseline title. I think prox mines are really good. That threat of if something dies, Cad Bane gets to reposition and choose where that prox mine was going to be next turn. It's extremely dangerous that opponent has to respect, and a lot of times is not in the front of their mind when they're planning on what they should be doing against you. But again, Cad Bane's ability doesn't work if he's dead. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like having the 5 ships and some droids that. So I personally like the math of just saying, all right, either you let my droids do all the objective stuff they want and try and burn down Grievous or Django, which can be difficult. Grievous is very durable, and Django is a fire spray that does not have to commit his front arc to anything because he has back arc with boost at I6. Or you can go after my droids, but all those shots you took to kill 2 vultures and 1 hyena, that is 7 points. That's it. And you have to have enough firepower after killing all those droids to do enough to Django or Grievous to finish out the game. Because generally, scoring less than 10 kill points is not enough to win a game.
All right, so that has been the faction by faction breakdown. Man, like, this is I am really curious to see how this ends up shaking out, guys. Like, this is gonna be crazy. Now, we're going to do bold predictions, and we got one other thing that I want to jump into. But before we do that, we've talked quite a bit about the ISO plane initiative. I want to give it another shout out here real quick. We had been talking about the fact that there were going to be some special initiative tokens. They're being created by Putini, and they are now officially available to order. You can see you get that set of 5, and they include a GSP as well as a Hexile and 3 special colored yellow, blue, and purple Isoplane 2023s in there. And this whole initiative is Daniel Lim, aka Isofane, just trying to gather some money together to allow players or give players an opportunity to basically apply for some grants to help get them to Worlds, because like they say in the slogan is Worlds is for everyone. So if you're having trouble getting to Chicago, Isofane had put out a call. I know he's got a bunch of responses out there, and if you want to help out with that and also just get some easy swag, go ahead and put in the order. I'm going to be putting the link to this in our show notes, as well as in our exclamation point ISO plane tag on Twitch, and you'll be able to get that done. And basically, each set is $15, and that entire $15 or £15 or €15, depending on your location, that entire sum actually goes towards the donation, because the owner of Putini is essentially donating these objective tokens. And all you have to do is have given the 15 buckaroos to give to that. So that's easy. So go ahead, get that done. I know I personally, I went and bought 5 sets because I want 5 of the GSP ones. I'm just gonna be honest. It's what I did. Easy. I know exactly what I wanted, so I went and did it. So shout out to Isofane for getting that done. All right, let's go ahead and do our bold predictions, boys. Our bold predictions. Who wants to start? Who's willing to be bold? Our bold predictions for the Galactic Championship.
I got a real bold one.
Okay.
It's going to be won by a 3-ship list.
Ooh.
That's right. As all of us talk about objectives, I still think that someone can go out there, bring the big dogs, and make it work.
I'm going to say that's not bold enough.
Oh.
We just saw Cam Murray take 3 ships into the qualifier in Canada. We've seen Duncan take 3 ships into top 4 of Nova. We've seen it.
You've been called out.
And my pick for the winner was Cam with 3 ships. That was my favorite for the winner.
Well, I apparently think that's more bold than you guys did. So I did not choose those. Oh, fair enough. Well, I mean, what is bold then?
Maybe that's just my opinion. I don't think it's bold enough because there have been results with 3 ships. They haven't won. There's not a high consistency. So it's borderline. But, I mean, we did just see Cam Murray make a final match at a qualifier. We've seen
Yeah, but that's in Canada, though. Does that count?
No. Oh, he just called out all of Canada. The XTC champions. He's just like
They just let the XTC just like, you guys can have this one. You guys, we'll
What
just
about
roll
when
over
Crispy
for
took
you.
a 3-ship separatist list to top 4 in that Galaxy?
That's crispy though.
Okay.
It's a bit different.
Is that the same thing with Duncan at Nova? It's just Duncan?
it's just Duncan.
It's just Duncan. This is what I'm saying. This is what I.
Well, Mark
I think-
Myers, who went undefeated in his Swiss at Gen Con, who took Ray Pokova also.
Look at it. He just look at all these 3-ship results.
Okay.
People only think I pay
mean,
attention to swarms. I have to know what 3 ships exist so I know if my swarms can play.
Who's won? Name a winner.
You're right. No, now are you saying there's going to be a final table 3 ship? Now that's cool.
No. Oh, you know what? I'll increase the stakes on that then. Only 6 ships on the final table. That's bold.
On both sides.
What? No, total.
Yeah,
What?
Yeah, total on both sides of the table.
Yes.
So you're saying a 3-ship list will win
Well,
because there can't be 2 ship.
exactly.
All right. Who's next? Who's next?
I'm gonna say Lat list or Republic list gets into the cut.
A Latless Republic list. That is quite bold, sir. That is quite bold.
The boldest. And the least likely, probably.
Marcel.
I don't have any good ones. Let me think. Not a single rebel list will make the cut. Is that bold or is that predictable? That's kind of predictable, right?
I'm feeling a little weak on that one.
Let me think on it a little bit more.
How many people total? Like, what's the cut size going to be?
So it depends on how many people end up getting their
So it's a
tickets and everything
graduated
like
cut,
that.
right?
It's a graduated cut. I would expect us, in a perfect world, we end up having at least a round of 32. It might not be 32 players, but like more than 16. So a five round cut is what I am hoping for. Is what I'm expecting. Let me put it that way.
I don't know. I'm leaving it to no rebels. If that's weak sauce, I'll go again after Ryan.
Ryan.
And this is where I'm like partially not sure either, because a lot of things to me seem very obvious. We went through it all, and not too many surprises come to mind without going too crazy and just think that's not possible, at least very highly unlikely. Man.
All right, you know what? While you're thinking, I got mine locked and loaded.
Oh, go for it.
All right. Bold predictions. A Rebel list makes the top 8 at Exegol. A Rebel list. Somebody's got some secret sauce, or they are just passionate. Their name is someone like a Dread Champ who's like, no, I'm gonna do it my way and take it all the way. Though he's kind of flip-flopped to Resistance lately, but
He's gone over to Resistance. They got better Y wings.
I mean,
I'm gonna say
make it top 4. and
what
then
top
it's a
4? You said that
prediction.
they won't make the cut. I'm going all the way to the top 8. That's bold.
Yeah, but there might be only like one win in the cut. It might be like a top 16 and then one win in the cut.
They will make it past 2 rounds of the cut. How about that? Bold enough for you? All right. All right, Ryan?
I can. Oh, you got one?
I was about to formulate it, but if you're 100%,
I got a question for you, and maybe you can tell me if it's bold enough to answer. How many force points do you think will be in either the final table or the winning list?
That's a
Man, I gotta go 3. Because that includes Vaders, that includes Kylo Whispers. Doesn't include Rey.
unless you
And
got
it
something
includes
weird going
Anakin
on.
7Bs. Well, one, if it's Republic, it's way more than 3.
Right.
To be real.
True.
That's like
All
6.
right. I got a bold prediction. There will be 0 force in the final.
Ooh.
Slapping around the Force users. And we do reserve the right to say that if the points completely change by then, that all of these are invalid, by the way. Okay? Just want to say. All right. I got a hedge for us, boys. At least a little bit. At least a little bit. Unless I end up being right, then not. Then it's valid. Because I make the rules, and I'll break them if I want to.
I'm going to say
Brian.
the least popular faction will win.
Which is Rebels?
Well, depending
A lot
on
of people
who.
still bring Rebels.
You mean the
By the
faction that
results.
gets taken the least?
Yep. Is that
Okay,
bold
so you're
enough for
going.
you guys? Or you want?
That's
you want,
pretty.
you
That's
want
pretty
something-
bold. Yeah.
That's good. I like
Because
it.
you're hedging your base with Separatist, but then also Rebels
Some
have
people
really
just
fallen
haven't
off.
been taken first order. Why? I don't know.
Actually, I'm going to double down on my prediction.
We're doubling down.
Yeah. Doubling down.
All right.
It will be no Rebels in the cut and no Force in the final.
They're taking them both. All right. He's taking 2. Okay. All right. We'll see what ends up happening. It'll be a good
I'm gonna
time.
say the most successful chassis is a Y-wing. Keep in mind that's saying that's better than TIE fighters. That includes FO and Empire, and all X-wings and all fire sprays.
Oh, that'll be a fun one to figure out. Nice.
It'll be easy because there'll be like 16 Y wings in the top cut. So
Don't anyone take any other Y-wing except Resistance, and I'll be right.
All right, there you go.
No, you be taking no Rebel, no Republic, or no scum Y-wings out there.
Gold Squadron Bombers, here we come. All right, and JTL715 in the chat says, so we have invitee players and then we have buy-in players. The players, like I said, those 35 seats that are going to be open. Says, what if a buy-in player wins it all? Then they win it all. They win it all. It's an open
If-
seat.
If you're playing, you have a chance to win.
That's right. That's right. So, with
I got a spicy bold prediction.
Spicy, hit me.
None of the winners make cut.
Oh! You're being called out. Oh, man. The Andrews and the Christophers all cry. I mean, if two of them don't show up,
That would
that's
be-
not that
that-
hard to do. But
That would be pretty crazy, though.
all right.
But hey, that's why they're bold predictions.
That's right. That is why they're bold predictions. All right, let's go ahead and head into our final segment. Ryan, you wanted to hit us with some knowledge. You had some nuggets for us. Some interesting tidbits.
Yeah, so the wonderful Chris Allen has been keeping a database, and feel free to share it out, Dion. The website advancedtargeting.computer. Basically, he pulls in data from List Fortress, and he compiles it based upon events that have a certain amount of people that have an attendance to make sure there's not a bunch of just small events gumming up what is designed to be higher quality compiled data. Now, granted, we don't have a lot of X-Wing, right? In the past, there's been more X-Wing to compile data like this. So you can definitely make some conclusions from this. We're going to look at stuff from this to see, because all we can base off of our decision making and what we're bringing at lists, and maybe even how we're feeling on stuff, and maybe how things might be changed with these points updates from the data that we have for the games that we've been playing, right? So it's as simple as in this website, mainly I look at the page for pilots. He still keeps up with upgrades and factions, but the pilots can generally determine as you build lists what is going to be the composition of your list, right? And some of the columns are as simple as the name of the pilot, a general image of it, the faction they're part of, and the ship. That's the baseline information. Beyond that, you got lists. Now, this is for a very great example right at the top, the ISB Jingoist. That 442 lists so far makes it seem like, oh, they're counting 2 per list, right? No. One instance of ISB Jingoist shows up in a list, that is 1. If a second shows up, that's still the same list, 1. So we've still had 442 instances of Imperialists with at least 1 ISB Jingoist. It shows their cost in the cost column. Percentile is something, the easy way to break down percentile is basically if you play in a 100-player Swiss, okay? If the ISB Jingoist, we're going to round it to, actually, we'll take Wampa. That's easier. Wampa is a 60th percentile ship. That means out of 100 players, Wampa's average placement in the finals of a Swiss is 40, right? So you take the 100, subtract the percentile, you get where Wampa should land when he's taken in a list. He's going to average finish out 40th out of 100. Okay. Cut rate simple. We've seen that, talked about that a whole bunch of times. It is what is the percentage chance, or if you see this list about for Wampa as example, about 33% of the time you're going to make cut if you bring Wampa. Match is just the total amount of matches. Cut matches or win percentage. Your percentage chance of winning if you bring this pilot, or this pilot's win percentage against the field. And then you see how many cut matches and the cut win rate. So what I want to get from all of this is I'm going to bring one simple sentence that I said to Dion, and he responded with a very entertaining GIF. And that is, we have not one, but multiple pilots or lists that are performing better than the Nantex were at their peak. Okay? So for all of you who remember that, everyone was up in arms and going crazy.
Burn it
that they had to
down!
be nerfed. It was being burnt down. The Nantex were destroying the game, yada, 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 right? So let's look at we want to really narrow down, for an example, which is probably the highest and best performing list in the entire game right now, is the First Order list of Kylo, Dread, Grudge, Malrus, and Scourge. Now, the common denominator in that, so you can help try and figure out where this list is really performing its best, is I don't see Dread in any First Order list except this one. So if you want to look at the pilot Dread, we see that its cut win rate is 85.71%. You have a 85% plus chance to win any cut game. That is insane. To put in perspective, the Nantex at their peak had a 64% cut win rate. That's it. Okay. Now.
Wait. So go do that one more time.
Okay. So when you're
just this. So there's 83 lists and the 85.71 win rate. If you take Crispy out of that, who has played that and won multiple tournaments with it, I think I don't know how much one person is skewing this particular result. Now, I'm not saying it's not good. It's still an S tier list and one of the best lists out there. But the Nantex were being taken by everyone. Like, it wouldn't be 83. It would have been like 180. Like, even people that were not very good at it, they were taking it because it was just so easy to play. Where this one, it's probably, being driven by a couple people that are really good.
So wouldn't you have to always prepare for the best players to play the best list, though?
No, I'm not. Yes, of course, you have to prepare for somebody like Crispy or somebody else that's at a similar level flying it. But just in general, like if you're just doing, it's not an apples to apples comparison, because I think the Nantex were more broadly taken by everyone versus we're seeing even now, like, people that, there's tournaments now like the one that just happened in Canada where nobody wants to fly it, whether it's, for whatever reason they don't like it, whatever, they're not flying it. If the Nantex were available, somebody would have flown the Nantex because everyone was flying it.
Okay, so let's go to another pilot that has been taken more than Dread and is not part of the First Order list. Wilsa Teshlo has the same level of cut win rate as Nantex. Now, Nantex, there's another. I think the two main columns I've been focusing on recently has been cut win rate, because once you make the cut, that's where you're playing the most difficult lists, right? And this is going to sound maybe elitist a little bit, but on a high level, it's not crazy to make cut for list archetypes, not for a person, okay? So a lot of different types of lists can make cut. Consistency is what matters, right? Mm-hmm. So for the percent, to really separate the men from the boys, the women from the girls, right? You need to figure out who can win when it's elimination time, when it's in the cut, what's in the bracket. That's what gets you higher up to win the championship, okay? But also, you need to be able to make sure that list and that pilot performs well enough to make sure it makes cut. And because of how many different events have had different types of cuts, whether they're graduated, whether they're like the Canada one, they had a certain top X number, and the wide variety of how many people have been at these events, and maybe some events that have had multiple days of Swiss. The cut rate is not as valuable as a number as the percentile. The percentile gives you where your ship is likely going to place, or on average. Generally, the average ship is going to be around 55% in the percentile. It's higher than 50 because there are drops and other things that some of the data can't account for completely. But if you're above 60% in the percentile, or even like high 50s, like 57 and up, that's a very well performing ship. So for context, the Nantex did perform much better than a lot of these ships are on the percentile end. They were in a 70 percentile. So your average Nantex player was making 30th on average in those events for GSP. So that is the one thing that it may have over a lot of these ships, but the consistency of how many ships are at 60 up. So like I said, Wilsa Teshlo has the same cut win rate as those Nantex, is being taken up, as we've seen, almost taken in every resistance list. Is been in 129 lists, has had 570 matches, and it's in a 60, almost 65 percentile. So you're almost getting 35th rank or around that average. Basically, and Marcel, you bring up a good point, right? So, like, why aren't these people bringing these lists? That's honestly a question I have for the people and you guys. A lot of this data I'm showing is proving that these lists are crazy good, have been performing crazy good. Why haven't people clamped onto them like the Nantex? Why haven't people had as visceral a reaction to these lists as Nantex? Like, what are the reasons we're not seeing the community reaction to the first order list, to some of the pieces in Resistance, or the Resistance Y-Wings in general, or even something outside of either of those two? Let me see, what was the other pilot that we had in here? I think it was Commander Poe, or no, Commander Poe, both Resistance. I think there's an Empire piece that was really high up there. But either way, there are a lot of numbers that are edging close to how successful the Nantex were. And I want to know from you guys, why hasn't the community had a visceral reaction to it? Why haven't people said, doubling down, let's just everyone take it, we're going to get a bunch of mirror matches? And is this going to be indicative to what type of points adjustments we're going to see?
Like, I think it comes down to two things. The Nantex felt worse, right? So when you tell me TIE fighters, right? Like, the game started with TIE fighters. I know it's not the same TIE fighters, right? It's not the same thing. But, like, from a distance, you tell me, like, oh, those are just two dice guns that are doing great. That's so cool. TIE fighters are winning. But the Nantex had thrived in a world where their mechanic was taking advantage of what people thought as like sacred part of the game was the dial, right? Oh my God, they could do all this stuff because, by the way, for anybody who's newer to the game, the Nantex used to be able to use their ability even if they did not fully complete a maneuver. Now, with the current errata, they must fully complete the maneuver. But I honestly think it comes down to that, Ryan. It's not even – most of the time, those overreactions have very little to do with the data and everything to do with how it felt. That's the observations I've been. Basically, and I mean this with all the love in the world, most X-Wing players are not analytical. They are emotional creatures, as am I.
But then I ask, how come people haven't had that same emotion to the First Order bombers throwing chaff at them? People have accepted it's not an if, it's a when. They just accept that they're going to get chaffed. Like, saying that's going to happen no matter, and they literally cannot do anything about it. Like, why doesn't that feel bad to them either? And also just being responded to, like, immediately after getting chaffed, you're getting a bomb that has a 50-50 chance to do 3 damage on whatever it hits.
Mm-hmm.
So why aren't we getting that visceral reaction that the Nantex had, similar to the First Order bombers, that are doing things that feel maybe outside of the good feelings of X-Wing?
James, you got something for me?
I agree I agree with you, Dion. Like, it doesn't feel as bad. like I feel like with the Nantex, I only had to play against it I think 3 times, and I was about ready to sell my stuff. Um, but it just like felt bad. Like it doesn't matter how you engage, it doesn't matter what you do, you can't win. And I feel like it takes away the agency that the player has. At least with the Chaff Cloud apocalypse, we at least have some agency on when that happens. Like you can make it to where it's not as bad for your squad as it could be, and you can do that by setting up differently, or engaging faster than they can, or by finding ways to get rid of it quickly with like seismics or like R2D2 and just stuff like that, or bring passive mods that don't need actions that you get taken away on the Chaff Cloud.
But a lot of those things that you said as well could also be used against the Nantex, because they, as I mentioned with the numbers, the Nantex could be beaten. They were not unbeatable, but they did win a lot, and they were obviously very successful. I'd be curious is if this is me speaking in if this happened. If people took the First Order list as much as they took the Nantex list, I wonder what kind of conversation we'd be having right now.
Oh yeah,
That's
I
very
agree
true.
with you. Yeah, and like I feel like we saw more list representation. We would see a lot more community cry out, which I think Marcel might have said there.
And that's what I was saying earlier, that with the Nantex, what happened is just they were good, and they were so good that everybody took them. The problem with the Nantex was, and why there was such an outcry, is because they were so good, and it was so evident that they were so good, and they were so far above the field that not only the good players started taking them, like everyone started taking it, and it was just like it was
Not just the good players, everybody. Everybody. I know it's.
You know what I mean, like people that have practiced it, and anyway,
Right.
I'm not gonna defend that. With the First Order one,
Yeah.
like you can go to a tournament and not face it at all,
Right.
or face it maybe once. So it doesn't feel bad if you lose against it, because you're like, I lost the game, and whatever. With the Nantex, it happened so fast, and it was so abrupt, and not abrupt. It was so in your face that you would go to a tournament or online tournament. You would show up at a tournament, and 4 of your 5 rounds would be against Nantex. So you'd be playing Nantex. If you were 5-0, you were playing against the Nantex. If you were 1-2 or 1-3, you were playing against the Nantex, because everybody it was just all over. You could not avoid playing 2 or 3 rounds against Nantex in a 6-round match, and it was just the sheer volume of it.
The difference, I think, to me, which to your point, Marcel, is that those Nantex lists were how many Predators should I bring because I'm bidding against other Nantex. Right. There was only like one real list building decision to make. Now, though, I mean, Jingo Wampa, you want Decimators, you want Defenders, you want Iden and Iden and the Gideons. They come in a wide variety of flavors. For the Imperials, at least, the First Order, we've already seen evolutions. People going more Whisper heavy because they found out that it's not the stress so much, which is pretty nasty. But the jam is equally as powerful on those chaff clowns. So instead of chaffing somebody else, or bringing a second chaffed, they would just bring a second Whisper to jam out there, whether it's Nightfall or whatever. I think Nightfall is the 4.1. But I think so that gives a visual when you walk amongst the tables. Yeah, they could be Jingo Wampa here, there, and Grudge here, and they could be on every table, but they would always normally be in different variations. As much as we talk about, like, why aren't you running Defender Vader and 5 TIE Fighters? People aren't, though. Because for whatever reason, it's one-dimensional, or they would prefer a decimator, things like that. But the small tweaks and stuff on there, I'll put this back to you. Share Crispy's list, but like I said, I think we've seen evolutions on that, even with Andrew Cox and a couple other players sticking with that archetype. But like, as far as like Imperials, is there a definitive Imperial Jingo Jingo Wampa Iden list?
I think similar to Resistance, there's enough variation where a single list archetype is not targeted, similar to Nantex was, but there are pieces that people have definitely started to formulate as these. Like, a lot of people hate ISB Jingoists. Let's put it plain and simple. They might almost hate it as much as Nantex, but
I'm starting to hate Iden more than these Jingoists, to be honest with you. I could deal with the TIE Fighter, but an Iden protection is...
I hate Iden more than the Jingoists. But I also hate Defender Vader more, I think. I hate Kanan Hawk the most. But I think people are starting to formulate there are pieces that they don't like. I've heard of people who hate FinPod. They hate dealing with him. They hate fighting him. I hear people who started to not like Resistance Y-Wings. They don't like seeing all of them on the field zipping around. Just a bunch of Y-Wings everywhere. So people have formulated different opinions
not a fan
of what
of
they
those
don't like,
Y-Wings.
but there's not a singular list. They know the pieces they don't like. But whether it's because people just wanting to play different things and not wanting to just, I'm not going to be the guy who just does what the other guy does. Because let's be honest, a lot of people like to be the person to find the thing that they can make it feel like it's theirs, right? There's not a lot of people in X-Wing who will just grab a list even if they never built it and just say, I'm bringing the most competitive thing I believe will work for me.
It's like the net listing versus like building your own list, or the crispy factor. I think what we've come to find.
And so I would never frown upon any one net listing. You do what you got to do. You feel like you're comfortable playing the game, and whatever your priorities are. If
I'm
you
a
like
dirty
winning,
net lister, baby.
There's different skills. Like,
all day.
Being able to look at a list and be like, I know how to fly that after like only 1 or 2 reps. That's a skill. That's not, like, some people just don't have trained on. But
like I think when we interviewed Andrew Cox, he said, I'm not a list builder, but I'm a list finalizer. I know how to make the final tweaks to do what will put the list potentially into the next level, or do what it needs to do in the meta I believe will occur. Right?
Taking a good list to great.
Yes. So, I mean, I think the general consensus from what we've seen is, or what we talked about is, people aren't having the visceral reactions because there's not a direct list archetype people consistently do not enjoy playing right now. It may be because the first order list that has the highest performing numbers isn't being taken a lot because either people are exploring outside of it or just don't want to play it. And maybe they've just clambered onto stuff in Empire, in Resistance, in Separatist, in Republic, whatever it may be. They don't want to just be I don't want to bring what Crispy brought, because then they'll just say, oh, that's Crispy's list and not mine, even if I win with it or whatever. But I do want to throw this out here too. How much do we think scenarios have played into why people maybe aren't focusing on why a list is performing so well? Because when Nantex were there, you only played one game type.
Yep.
That was it.
I was just about to say that, Brian.
Don't joust the Nantex. That was the game type.
You are losing. Like, if you're losing those games, you are losing in more than one way, right? You have more than one. You have more than one path to a loss in scenarios, which spreads out maybe some of that realization or blaming, right? Because it might be like, hey, listen, I didn't play this scenario here. Regardless of what I played against, I didn't scramble once, and not surprised that I lost. You know, stuff.
I mean,
stuff
we've
like
talked
that.
about it. I think we all generally agree or mentioned in the past that the one weakness of the first order list is salvage, and if it happens to occur on a game that's pivotal for that list archetype to either have players make it to cut or make it past an elim round, like they have to get over that hump, and depending on what they face, they may face another list that is really good in salvage, and it might knock them out. But hey, that's why you got to find a list that is as good as possible in all scenarios, or beats the craps out of other lists so much in other ones that it can take an L in a column in one of those scenarios.
All right. Well, we will end up seeing here in the in a week, we will have crowned a Galactic champion. We will know what the top lists are. We will find out if our bold predictions came true or not, and we'll see if any of those qualifier champions can do a repeat. Super excited about it, friends. It's going to be a good time. Last couple of reminders for things. If you want to support the Isoplane initiative, please go ahead and check it out. Shout out to Wade Pichet and Aerodome. If you want to check out that game, the link to the backer kit, essentially it's like the splash page for Kickstarter before it actually jumps into it. That opens up in a week as well. And of course, we will see you guys this weekend. Make sure to tune in. And if you're a player, go ahead, get signed up, get your tickets. If you're on pending or something like that, I'm taking care of all those people tonight, and we'll take care of you. It looks like Marcel's got one last thing to say before we head out.
Request.
A request from the one and
ramen.
only Marcel Manzano.
So next time we do the, I forgot what it's called.
Raise your mic just a bit closer to your face.
So next time we do the, what is it called when we get together at your place to play?
Ah, yes, the Gold Squadron Showdown.
So next time we do the showdown, we did the Will GM'd RPG.
Yeah.
Let's do the Wade's game.
You want to do an Aerodome tournament? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the day before, and then next day, the following day, we can try to take that belt away from Ryan.
That's right. We're coming for it, Ryan.
You said showdown. I immediately went to grab the belt. I'm like, I'm here. You want some? Come get some.
That's right. That's right. I will tell you, like, Wade's not playing around. He's got plans for, like, OP, like a world championship type of thing. Like, dude's popping off.
I mean,
like, watch out.
He was major part of OP for FFG originally, so yeah. I wouldn't doubt it.
It's gonna be pretty cool. I'm excited. All right, that's it for today. We will see you this Wednesday. Be smart and be safe. Gold Squadron.